Gintoki goes to jail. That's about it. Gintoki goes to jail. But why? Well, my friend, because they were hired to basically be hired muscle. I love it. Especially since this arc is shortly following up the 4 Divas arc, where we saw Gintoki's notoriety had already begun to grow exponentially. And the events of that arc shot rumors of his prowess through the roof. This time they were collecting money from this corrupt prison warden here, who was indulging in some prison roleplay at a nightclub, but he refused to pay. Hit with false accusations left and right, Gin was thrown in the slammer for his virtuous deeds, and thus began the jail arc. His cellmates, whom I can only describe as old Yamazaki with a beard, had been sending his son letters from prison during his lifetime stay here. The warden had been exploiting the old man for some extra cash before he let him see his son's lettered replies to him. And once Gintoki witnessed this injustice, he activated the world. You know, Dio's stand? That one. He activated the world. I'm not kidding. Okay? This happens. That's quite literally the only way I can see this making sense. The scene you see here is unedited. The warden waving the letter in the cell while actively looking at Gintoki. Gintoki replies with a close-up shot on his face, and all of a sudden, Gin shows the letter in his hands. The warden either just experienced the comeback of stands in Gintama, or Gin just, like, speed blitzed his ass. Straight up pulled a,
"Wanna see me run to that mountain and back? You wanna see me do it again?"
Add it to the wiki. Gintoki has the world, I guess. I don't know. Wiki people get on that. Power scale this. Then, soon after that, Shachi returned, whom I totally didn't forget about. Gintoki seriously fucked him and his crew up in a matter of seconds, further highlighting the power disparity between Gintoki and literally every other person in this prison. Gintoki being here is the equivalent of a shark in a kiddie pool. Or maybe a regular pool, because sharks wouldn't be able to swim very well in a kiddie pool. Maybe a baby shark? No! After that, Shachi joined Gintoki as his sidekick for the arc. Their antics are fun. I especially love this cut here, where Shachi and Gin are sneaking around. It's so goofy while being visually interesting. Seeing them adapt to the constantly changing background is a treat to see. The next scene is probably the funniest moment of the arc, where Sorachi's mastery in comedy is put on full display. Firstly, the guard they're watching suddenly gets called off his post because someone stole the keys. Shachi, unaware, was thankful it wasn't them, but is nervously urging Gintoki to get back to their posts in case they're found. But then it's revealed Gintoki is the one who stole the keys from a guard he strangled, which we see in this quick flashback. But then Gintoki unveiled his plan to use the prisoner's uniform as disguise, where instead of being a regular Japanese-style uniform, it turned out to be either a Western one or pajamas. To which we then see the retcon flashback of him strangling a night shift guard who had pajamas on because of his shift time. Gintoki, fully leaning into the pajama bit now, grabbed a pillow out of hammer space. That was when the guard showed up and denoted Gin as being a pajama kid, as if that's an everyday sight around the prison. Gin even starts adding a pajama suffix to the end of his sentences like some sort of One Piece character. After that, the guards question why there's even a pajama kid here, to which Gintoki loses his temper and threatens to rip off his pajamas, which actually works. This whole course of events is so fucking stupid, but surprisingly layered joke-wise. Eventually, Gintoki and Shachi figured out the address the old man had been sending his letters to, and in turn receiving replies from, actually didn't exist at all anymore. The supposed son he'd been corresponding with had been dead from disease long ago, painting a different picture of the warden. He'd been responding in his dead son's place. Regarding Beri, the warden, when he was first transferred here by his parents, the guards resented him for his origins, and the prisoners were unruly towards the newbie warden. That's when he met the sole old man who he found himself talking to rather frequently, asking countless questions about tips and tricks to run the prison. The nepotist, as thanks for the old man's help, let him live in a blissful ignorance and acted as his son. Even though the old man likely knew right from the start thanks to his handwriting, it gave him hope. Something to hold on to and continue living. To know there's still someone out there who cares enough to respond back. To not give up entirely. That is such a Gintama subversion of expectations, isn't it? After a major riot, the warden decided to take on all of their crimes and not further increase their sentences, which also meant the prison's residents forgave Beri, and also the old man's clemency wasn't revoked. The arc asks the question, what is preferable, to live in a kind illusion or a harsh reality? And to answer that, I absolutely love how they flipped Beri and the old man's relationship on its head during the clemency, where the old man revealed he'd been, in fact, writing letters with the warden in mind. Did he ever have a son, or was this all just to help out the poor soul of Kuzunosuke Beri? The one living in blissful ignorance wasn't the old man, like we so ignorantly assumed, but the warden himself, his shining ray of hope granting him camaraderie in this pugilistic, oppressive, and hard to fit into place. I like to believe the old man did have a son out there at some point, maybe he still does. And after he witnessed how lost the warden was in his new life, he pseudo-adopted him as a new son, and granted him an old man's elden wisdom. I'm very happy with Beri Kuzunosuke's character arc. How he grew and evolved, and all of his nuances slowly being uncovered throughout these short 2 episodes. The culmination of these 2 episodes resulted in him quitting his job as a warden to choose his own path and ditch his nepotism. I do hope we see Beri again at some point to figure out what he ends up doing with his life so we can wrap up that character arc in a nice bow. The only final thoughts I really have to say about this arc is that it seemed like very safe Gintama, something you could easily expect from one of Gintama's 2-parter dramas, with a plethora of twists and turns along the way to keep you invested. For some reason my video completely froze after I said invested, so I'm just gonna finish it up here, I guess. The jokes were fun, nothing that had me dying laughing, but they were still very fun, and the emotional bits, again, nothing that had me weeping or crying even, but they had me tearing up. And with that being said, I think I'm gonna drop this one right at a 7, which I'm also lowering the Monkey Hunter arc down a little bit, just one place. I'm putting that at a 7 as well. It was at 7.5 before, but every time I think back to Monkey Hunter, it's alright. I don't like the jokes that much in Monkey Hunter. They're okay. Back then, I think for sure was when Gintama was more leaning into that just shock humor. And I'm really glad that Sorachi's evolved from that, which is just plain to see in this arc. And I think Monkey Hunter did have more of an emotional pull to it, but the jail arc's comedy was just so much more solid, and the unraveling plot of the jail arc was so cool to piece together. I think your expectations get majorly flipped 2 or 3 times in this arc alone. Plus, it was kind of just really pissing me off how I didn't have any 7s. I actually, before this arc, it was just 6.5 to 7.5, and I didn't like that. And if you did miss my big update video for the channel, as far as Garth is concerned, it's still going to be around, just a lot slower releases, even though I know they were already pretty slow. I'm going to be releasing them only when I'm pretty much out of video ideas. It's going to be my thing to fall back on when I don't have anything planned for the next 2 weeks or whatever. If you want the full news on that, check out that video. I'll link it right here. Otherwise, like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you dislike, how many thoughts you have on the jail arc. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and don't forget to stay trash. Peace. Underwater.